Man, this outfit looks really good. I'm gonna wear this all the time. This is great looking. Okay. Also the sparkles. I feel like this coat has sparkles in it. I don't know if you can see the sleeves. It has all kinds of little gems in it. And it looks really good in the sunshine. I feel like it's quite cool. Okay. So Michael Pollan is doing the same thing that we did with Plato, which is that modern day problems are actually just a sort of different version of the problems people had back in the olden days. And he says in the caveman days, you had to be careful what you ate, or it could kill you. And that's kind of still true today in supermarkets. Again, keep a good vocabulary list running. Make sure you have written down in a way that you can understand. Don't just copy what it says off the internet. Read what it says off the internet for the definition. Think about it, and then write it down the way you would say it. But you're going to need to know what an omnivore is, what a dilemma is, what atavistic means, what cornucopia means, what bewildering means. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. He says perhaps he mentions that the food in the supermarket might kill you. Perhaps not as quickly as poisonous mushrooms, but just as surely. So it's not the things that you're going to get from the supermarket. It's not like you're going to eat them and you're going to be dead tomorrow. But if you eat certain kinds of foods over and over and over again, they may have bad things that'll shorten your lifespan, right? Um, okay, cool. Let's take a look at it. Actually, I'll give you a quick example. Honey. Um, this is maybe not. This is an okay example. I'm going to go with this. Honey. A lot of my students have only ever had honey that you get from a supermarket where the honey is in a plastic bottle that is in the shape of a bear. I myself went many years only eating honey that came out of a plastic bottle in the shape of a bear. It's a common way of selling honey, and if you've had that kind of honey, it's pretty tasty. I mean, I'll put that kind of honey in tea or whatever, and I'll put it on top of things. Honey's good. Honey's delicious. But I had a student meet with me at my house with my wife. We had like dinner with a couple of students, and we had bought farmers market honey. I don't know if you've had farmers market honey before. One of the first things you're going to notice if you try to go have farmers market honey is that it's very expensive. It can, I mean, regular honey is not that much, but like fancy honey, just even a jar this big will run you like $20, and you don't even get that much honey. And it's got little crystals in it, and it doesn't really look like the bear honey. It tastes fantastic. It's much better than the kind of honey that you get from a bear. It's also much healthier for you. Why? Because the honey that you get from a bear, if you look at the ingredient list, you'd think honey just only got one thing in it, honey. But actually, it doesn't. The honey that comes in a bear, in a plastic container the shape of a bear, that honey has about 50% honey. The remaining 50% is corn syrup, which is basically sugar. It's the same kind of sugar they put in everything, but most prominently in soda. It's just it's a lot of it's made from corn. It's essentially sweetened corn syrup, and they put it in everything. It is one of the major ingredients in Coca-Cola, but it's in anything, just about anything sweet that's not very expensive, has some kind of corn syrup in it. It's not great for you drinking liquid sweetened sugar corn. But they put it in fucking everything. And when you drink soda, you're primarily drinking an awful lot of corn syrup, which is one of the reasons why soda has so many calories in soda. If you get farmer's market honey, it's quite a bit more expensive. But there's only one ingredient, honey. And my student who had the honey from the farmer's market, the expensive honey, ate it, and her eyes kind of opened big, and she was like, wow. It was like she had never had honey before, because it tasted so much better than the kind of honey she was used to. For a comparison point, imagining only knowing what oranges taste like by eating orange-colored Starburst, and then you have your first orange, and you'd be like, holy shit. I mean, it does sort of taste like Starburst oranges, but not really. That's a totally different thing. A real orange tastes very different from a Starburst orange candy. In the same way, real honey tastes much better than a sort of honey flavored thing, which is essentially what honey in a bear is. The bottle with the bear has honey in it, but it's essentially corn syrup and honey mixed together, and it's not great for you. And if you eat that for a long time, it's, that amount of sugar is not super healthy. Um, and real honey would be better for you. The problem is it's more expensive. Okay, I talked about that way too long. Okay. He says, certainly the extraordinary abundance of food in America complicates the whole problem of choice, right? Because you have so many options of what to eat. So it really makes it difficult. Whereas the caveman only just had what they could see. At the same time, many of the tools with which people historically manage the omnivore's dilemma have lost their sharpness here, or simply failed. Um, a relatively new nation, drawn from many different immigrant populations, each with its own culture of food, Americans have never had a single strong, stable culinary tradition to guide us. So there used to be rules in the ancient world about what you should eat and what you should not eat. For example, Jews and Muslims had rules, still have rules, about eating pigs, about eating shellfish like shrimp, like lobster. And there used to be sort of cultural rules, but America doesn't really have all of those cultural rules so much because we're not really one group of people. We're like hundreds of different groups of people who believe all kinds of different things and eat all kinds of different ways. Whereas if you lived, hundreds of years ago, I think the diet would have been pretty similar across the country, although I really don't know if that's true. But in my imagination, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, there was a more limited selection of what you could get at the supermarket. Or just the market. Supermarket's a modern thing, but what you can get at like a market to buy, and there's so many options, but also cavemen had rules to guide them about what to eat and what not to eat. They developed some survival techniques. We don't really have those anymore because we don't really have a unified eating culture. We haven't really agreed on what's okay to eat and what's not okay to eat. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. He says in the next paragraph, and so we find ourselves where we do, confronting in the supermarket or at the dinner table dilemmas of omnivorousness, right? The problem of what to eat when you eat everything. You have so many omnivores, you have so many options, but the dilemma is what should you eat? By the way, please note that you already know what an omnivore's dilemma is because it's the same problem. David Foster Wallace brought this up, right? David Foster Wallace's whole point is yes, of course, you can eat meat. But should you? And that's a problem. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it, right? Just if you've ever seen the Jurassic Park movies, they're always extremely excited to bring dinosaurs back to life, and they always go, "But we can. We have the technology. We can bring the dinosaurs back to life." And none of those scientists are ever like, "Yeah, but should we bring the dinosaurs back to life? They're going to eat everybody." And then they bring the dinosaurs back to life, and then the dinosaurs eat everybody. So the just because you can eat something doesn't mean you should, and that question was already raised by David Foster Wallace. It's being raised by Michael Pollan, and he has a name for it. He calls it the omnivore's dilemma, the problem of choice. When you can eat so many things, what should you eat? Okay, and so we find ourselves where we do, confronting in the supermarket or at the dinner table the dilemmas of omnivorousness. Some of them ancient, others never before imagined, right? Some of these problems about what to eat are old, and some of them are new. The organic apple or the conventional? And if the organic, the local one or the imported? The wild fish or the farmed? The trans fats or the butter or the not butter? Shall I be a carnivore or a vegetarian? And if a vegetarian, a lacto-vegetarian or a vegan? Um, so these are some of the troubling decisions people have to make. So let's go and look at some of those are. So he mentions, should you eat organic apples or conventional apples? If you've been to a supermarket, they often have fruit in two different sections, or fruit and vegetables are in two different sections. There's like a regular section, and then there's the organic section. The organic section means that they're sort of the vegetables are treated better. They don't have all kinds of sort of pesticides and poisons and sort of other kinds of things in them. They also, in my experience, taste better. But they're also a hell of a lot more expensive, like twice as expensive. Like instead of getting 4 limes for $1, 1 lime is $1. So this is one of the problems: is organic. Are you going to choose the more expensive organic food, or are you going to choose the cheaper food? Maybe that's not as good for you. He raises the issue. Okay, cool. Let's talk about it in the next video.